what's the new direction that you are going in your art? This.
Well, it doesn't feel like a new direction. It is a new direction, but it isn't at the same time. For the last few years, I've been really interested in displaying painting differently, and I started to use more structures which were built and then place them inside a building or outside with paintings attached to the structure itself. Think a little bit of display signage and advertising billboards. And out of that grew this desire to build more intricate structures, recreate different spaces you as a viewer go into, where it's you become more part of the space because you have to walk through it differently. You can go into a structure or they're standing opposite of each other and the space in between becomes different, it becomes charged differently. And in turn I'm hoping that when you look at a painting that way or a video, that you're more aware of the spatial issues at play in that room. It becomes a different sensation of the visual image of the painting or the video in relation to your own body and your body being in a particular space. So it's this manipulation of all the space instead of just a manipulation of the space on a two-dimensional surface.
All the shows that you will have, do you think you will be able to, or you want to have a structure?
Yes and no. It really depends on the space where work is being shown and what kind of the concept of that body of work is. Like a lot of these pieces in this particular show have to do with being isolated from society and being underneath a bridge. That's how it started out for me, that you're in a space which is not a socially accepted space per se. It's different. You become isolated from society while being underneath that. So I kind of wanted to reconstruct a sensation of that, not reconstruct a bridge, but the sensation of entering a different space where you are more an individual confronted with who you are, being aware that you're separated from society. I think sometimes that will happen within just a body of paintings as well. I don't need the structure to per se do that, but it depends on those paintings. So it will be both.
Why a bridge? Do you have experience on a bridge, under a bridge?
Yeah, because it's like living here. It is one of those spaces which, as soon as you're interested in the structure, that it crosses from one side to another side. It's functional, but at the same time, I was just intrigued to trying to find out, okay, what's actually happening underneath these bridges? Always passing over this one thing, but I started looking into what's happening underneath these bridges, and there's always articles of clothing or empty beer cans. There's a history of somebody underneath that bridge, separated from society. The main trigger for me was that I got interested in Crackflower Bridge, which has quite a turbulent history. Someone has been murdered underneath there by her peers a few years back, I think in 1997. And in part because it was an isolated place. Maybe this is why it took place, or people felt that they could do things they normally wouldn't do. I'm not sure, but it kind of sparked this interest in these spaces which have a different history than just the passing over history.
So you think those spaces are like outside of society, like the groups of people who there are outsiders? So.
Yes, but at the same time it is still very much part of society, because it's a consequence of society that people feel or are forced to take shelter or hide there or commit crime in a space. So it's not separated from society, but it might be a space where you regard yourself differently in relation to society. And I'm interested in the individual relation to society, but also the group mentality which takes place when things start to shift and you feel you might have the protection of a group. And if that group feels very strongly about something and they want to enforce that on somebody else, how do these isolated places play a role in that, or is that a starting point? And then it might spill out into the rest of society.
Talking a little bit about the opening, for example, when people saw the exhibition and the structure. Did you get some feedback from?
People want to start building themselves, yeah. Yeah, no, there was a bit of feedback for sure. People quite intrigued by the structure itself, and then since there is some small paintings within the structure as well, but they're kind of hidden away. I think the response was that people really felt that there was a difference inside and outside, which you don't really expect when you're just walking around it, and that the space is sort of manipulative in that all the small paintings on the outside too, you kind of want to start walking through the space. It's not so much about the individual paintings as it is about the pattern which they create. It's a repetition which is almost a little bit like a film still. The next one, the next one, the next image, even though they're not the same bridge per se, but it started to lead people through the space. So there definitely a response to how the space has been altered for them and how they physically had to move through the space. Yeah.